Let me tell you, I didn't even put this scripture on the screen, but I want to qualify something there because I don't want to leave it hanging. I want to show you the theology of it. When I told you that I don't believe God rejected Cain's offering because it didn't have blood, the book of Hebrews backs me up. In Hebrews 11:4 at the hall of faith, by faith, Abram, by faith. You know what it says about Abel? By faith, Abel offered a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. Not by blood, by faith. So God accepted Abel's sacrifice because Abel offered it in faith, not because he offered it dripping with blood. Cain's sacrifice was not rejected because it was dry with blood. It was rejected because it was dry with faith. It was a rote repetition put before God. There was no passion behind it. And what infuriated him is that his performance didn't work. That he laid his performance up there and that wasn't good enough. It wasn't the blood, it was faith. It was his belief in the God he was offering to. Abel had that. That infuriated Cain that he didn't have it. And God comes to Cain and goes, look, the opportunity is there. It's yours. You can rule over it. The same anger that's in you is coming from the inside. That's where your faith can come from. If you let your faith come from the same place your anger comes from, I would accept your sacrifice. I'm just waiting on you to harness your emotion. I'm waiting on you to steer it in the right direction. But if you're not careful, it's going to steer you into the rocks. Cain, take responsibility for right now. You have a chance right now to change your world. And so what does Cain do? We know that Cain murders his brother. I want to deal with that anger from a New Testament perspective. I want to deal from an Old Testament perspective. I'm really leading you up to a couple heartfelt questions today, all right? I'm not leading you up to a couple hard answers, honestly, because I don't think that's the answer. I think a couple heartfelt questions you got to wrestle with this week would be good for all of us. Also, if we were wrestling with questions instead of firing out answers, we might have to listen a little bit more. And man, right now, listening would go a long way to just what's happening and what's going on in the world. Let me show you this from a New Testament perspective. Here's a verse everyone thinks about and quotes. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25. The Apostle Paul says this, therefore, putting away lying, let each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. We are members of one another is a spectacular statement because it means that no man, like the old Renaissance Pastor John Donne said, no man is an island apart from himself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Send not to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. In other words, back in Renaissance days when someone in the village in England would die, they would toll the bell at the local church in a certain tone so that you knew someone had died, and then you would go in the neighborhood and ask who died. The beauty of that poetry is never ask for whom the bell tolls. The bell's tolling for you. In other words, if they died, a piece of you died. That's a community statement. When you hurt, I hurt. Paul said it this way. Maybe not as poetic as John Donne, but still pretty good. Weep when they weep, cry when they cry, laugh when they laugh. What's that mean? I'm a member of you, you're a member of me. If you're in pain, I'm in pain. That's not a Christian thing or a white thing. That's a family of man thing. That's not a Republican thing or a Democratic thing. You hurt, I hurt. You're in pain, I'm in pain. Yeah, but you're stupid. Your ideology's dumb. You deserve to be in pain. And that means we don't realize we're members of one another. And when we're members of one another, their pain is our pain. They're feeling it. This is how I know where was God when you were hurting. He's a member of you. So when you were hurting, he was hurting. He had to be hurting. He couldn't be anything but hurt. You were wounded, he was wounded. You cried, he cried. You screamed out at night that your heart was breaking. He screamed out at night that his heart was breaking. He can't go anywhere else. And that's what he asks of us when we deal with our neighbor. It had to be jarring to Jesus. The whole Bible had been written around taking care of your neighbor. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit this morning, but I'm going to follow it. The whole Bible had been written around taking care of you. And it had to be jarring to Jesus to talk to his own people and one of them go, well, who's my neighbor? And he probably had to think, man, what? Who's my neighbor? Do you know what that question means? It means I'm trying to figure out who I get to hate. Who's not my neighbor? Yeah, who's not my neighbor is the right answer. If you have to ask who your neighbor is, it means you're trying to figure out which people you don't have to identify with. Because there's some of them out there I don't want to be put in the same boat with. Well, God bless your heart. You're already in the same boat with them. This ain't a garden, it's a city. The Bible ends with you in a city. You're not in your own yard. You're in the whole community. You belong to the whole community. It's why your rights end at your neighbor's nose. How far can you punch? Until you hit somebody. You can punch the air all day long, but you're not allowed to hit him. Well, I thought I had the freedom to do whatever I want. Well, sure you do. And then they have the freedom to knock your head off, too. That's always going to be that give and take, because I'm a member of my community. I'm a member. I'm a part of that body with one another. I wasn't supposed to be on that. This is really just a context verse trying to get you to something else. Put away lying. Let each of you speak the truth with his neighbor. By the way, put away lying is, man, that's an age-old principle. It's not just an old covenant command. It's a life principle. Be honest. I can't encourage people enough. Be honest in every dealing you have. It's not a matter of covering stuff up. It's a matter of you not speaking the truth about what you want. And it's why you're miserable in life sometimes, because you're not saying the truth to the people that matter in your life. You're not telling them what you expect or what you want. 26. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down. This is the scripture we all quote. Be angry and sin not. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. And what we take away from Ephesians 4:26 is we'll go, well, anger is not a sin, but it can lead to sin. And we're not wrong. Absolutely. Be angry and do not sin. It shows me that your emotions are separate from sin. Your emotions are different from sin. The question is, what leads over into sin? What is the sin connected with anger? The previous verse said you're a member of one another. So it sounds to me like anger can take you right up to harming one another. And once harming one another happens, you're back in a Cain and Abel scenario. You've inventoried your anger, you ignored it, you went ahead and killed your neighbor, and now you're going to deal with the fallout. But I think anger can be expressed in a lot of different ways. Don't let the sun go down in your wrath seems to speak that it speaks to something deep from the Old Testament. I'm trying to bring two thoughts together here. This is New Testament, but notice the quote marks around be angry and do not sin. Those quote marks mean that this is being quoted from previously written material. Paul's a genius at pulling previously written material back into the vernacular. So Paul's quoting something from the Old Testament into a New Testament environment, but he's adding to it. He's almost adding a commentary. Be angry and don't sin, colon, in other words, here's what I think about that. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. When the sun goes down, you're in bed. That's the place where you go to rest. That's the place where you go to sleep. Don't allow that emotion to take root in your life and bring fruit out tomorrow. Because the fruit that comes out of anger is not positive. There's a way to express it and a way to release it, but not a way to own it.